Hi guys, I'm Andrew McCoskey and welcome to my channel. This is another video. In this video series we're talking all about intelligent design and whether or not it's a viable theory or not. In case you're wondering, this is my good friend Melvin the monkey. I'm gonna go ahead and set him down for now. I know it's a good name. Our video topic today is, I think, a very essential question and essential issue in theories of, you know, how life began, just the origin of life as we know it. And that question is, how do we go from inorganic material to the first living cell? And today we'll explore some popular theories on that in the mainstream science, and then I'll talk about what I think is a big problem with all those theories. So it's important to understand before we really get into all the different possible theories, is that nobody can really know. Nobody knows exactly how life arose because none of us were there. None of us were there when the first cell came together. If you favor, you know, the creation story, no one was there during the time of creation. So all we can do is look at the evidence we see today and just try to work backwards and give the best hypothesis we can. So one popular theory, I learned about this from listening to Michael Roos speak. He's a fairly famous scientist, and his idea on how life began is that it began on the backs of crystals. That over time, the crystals kind of mutated, because crystals do that. Crystals, occasionally you get mistakes, and that over time, the crystals began to account for all the proteins needed to begin life, and that eventually you just had the first life form, the first cell, come into existence. Another theory, I know I learned about this one in 7th grade science class. This was what I was taught, was how you know, life began, was that there was essentially organic proteinal soup, and that that soup was struck with lightning, and that lightning really worked as the starting point, you know, for the first cell. That the lightning somehow connected all the proteins together, and that voila, you had the first cell. I know Nobel Prize winner Francis Crick, he's famous for helping discover the double helix structure of DNA. He concluded that life must have been seeded on Earth, that it came from an outside source, because he didn't think, you know, all the things necessary to have the first cell could have aroused simply on Earth. So he believes kind of the seeded method. There are many other methods, many other theories on how life began. I know one I've read up on is the idea of like community clay, that there were all these proteins in this protein-rich clay, that over time all the proteins came together, and, you know, voila, you have the first cell. And there are many more theories. I'd encourage you guys to kind of do some of your own research and just learn about these theories, because there are very many out there. And to me, they all seem fairly far out there, fairly unlogical. But I guess some people say that about intelligent design too. And I think the problem with all these popular theories is that they don't account for how incredibly complex the cell really is. I mean, Charles Darwin, many people misunderstand what his theory says, but his theory begins after the first life begins. He believes, or his theory goes into how through macroevolution we see what we see today, but it begins after the first cell comes into existence. He himself didn't offer any theories on that, but Charles Darwin, he, like many scientists of his time, believed the cell was very simple, that it was, you know, essentially gelatin. It was like Jello, and we're seeing now that that's not the case. So perhaps these theories would make sense. You know, perhaps if the cell was very simple, the idea of soup being hit with lightning wouldn't be that crazy. But as we'll see in this video, and as we'll see especially in the next video, we'll see how incredibly complex the cell really is, and you know, how low the chances are that through an undirected random chance that life could really arise. Because the cell we know now, unlike what Charles Darwin thought, we know now to be very complex. It's essentially a nano factory. I mean, it's encoded with its own software through DNA that gives its instructions on what to make and how the cell itself functions. And it's so complex, actually, that we're just now beginning to really be able to comprehend and understand, what the cell is, how it functions, and what DNA is and how it functions. I mean, there's thousands upon thousands of micro machinery in the cell that works perfectly together. And to me, and to many proponents of intelligent design, the idea and the theories offered up by mainstream science on how life began simply can't account for how incredibly complex the cell we see today is. We know that that information needs a source, that it comes from something, and to think that through random mutation, we'll see that is the source for how incredibly complex the DNA code is. That simply doesn't cut it. It simply does not offer a solution to it. Now, intelligent design, what they're offering, to how we go from the inorganic to the first living cell, it's very vague. We've talked about in past videos how intelligent design doesn't go into, if there's a higher power. It does not talk about, who that higher power is or what process was used. It just simply states that what we see in nature is best accounted for by the existence of some higher power. So in some ways, what intelligent design is offering up is kind of an ambiguous front, but I think it offers a much better possible theory than soup being struck by lightning or random mutations on the backs of crystals. Those theories to me simply doesn't cut it, and we'll see, especially in the next video, like I said earlier, how incredibly complex this cell really is, and just the odds of all the stuff needed to create a cell, all the proteins, all the amino acids, perfectly chaining together to create this cell. And I think we'll begin to see that macroevolution through a purely undirected, unguided process does not answer all the questions that are kind of looming in the essential question of how did we get here. Alright, so that's really all I had for this video. I'd encourage you guys, if you have any questions or comments, I'm sure this will be a fairly controversial video, that you go ahead and shoot me a question or a comment or criticism. It's kind of whatever. So once again, I'm Andrew McCoskey. Thank you for watching, and see you next time, guys.